several woke monuments in Trafalgar Square. Welcome to Riks Europe, Fred de Fossard, Director of Parliamentary Affairs at Legatum Institute.
Hello, Rebecca. It's great to have being on the channel. Thank you very much for inviting me.
So can you first give us just a background about these new monuments that have been referred to as woke?
Yes, absolutely. So this new statue, I think, is by a Brazilian queer artist. It takes the form of hundreds of plaster casts of transgender people arranged in a great big square cube platform, which is a form of art called a tzompantli, which I gather is a type of Aztec structure which was traditionally made out of the skulls of prisoners of war and people captured in battle. This statue has been put on the fourth plinth in Trafalgar Square, which stands right next to Nelson's column, probably about half a mile away from the Houses of Parliament. And this statue is here to supposedly symbolise the way in which society murders, mistreats trans people. It has been put up by the Mayor of London. Goes on the fourth plinth, which is an empty plinth on Trafalgar Square, and there's been a rotation of sculptures on this plinth for around 10 years. And in the last few years, the sculptures have been criticised, rightly I think, for being increasingly politically progressive, very, very left-wing, and sending very woke messages, often as a form of sort of political activism rather than an appreciation of beauty or history.
And could you please explain why they have been referred to as woke?
Yeah, it's a great point. I mean, this the message from this on this statue is particularly clear. It really is saying that British society or Western society treats trans people as if they are, prisoners of war, or as if our society is engaged in some kind of massacre of them, which I think flies in the face of any evidence, and it's completely absurd. It also doesn't seem to have any kind of cultural or historical connection to Britain. Well, of course, it's fine for statues to, take influences from art around the world. There is very, very little cultural or political or social relevance to this type of Mexican artwork. So many, many visitors to Trafalgar Square will look at it and wonder what on earth is the point of it. And you look at older statues on this square, we have had some infamous ones. There was a great big plastic ice cream with a fly sitting on the ice cream, which stood on the fourth plinth for a while. And very recently, there was a statue of an African preacher who was known for killing British people in Africa, put on the fourth plinth in Trafalgar Square as well. So there's a pattern of this plinth being used to celebrate progressive left-wing causes, quite woke causes if you want to describe them as that, and essentially causes which are almost designed to offend the sensibilities of the British people.
And you mentioned a backlash. Is it both a political backlash, but also from the British people?
At the moment, it's mainly political. It's the sort of thing which has got attention in sort of conservative media. But I think, as ever with the British people aren't going to, start marching in protest against this. But it's the sort of thing where many people will realise that, political elites, artistic elites, are just simply prioritising things which are of no relevance to them. One of the most prestigious artistic awards in Britain is called the Turner Prize, and that for many decades now has come to exemplify this kind of postmodern anti-beauty artistic culture, which many people will look at with sense of bemusement or slight disgust. It is a real shame, and I think it does the whole point of Trafalgar Square, which of course is the celebration of one of the most important British military victories in our history. It does a great disservice. This is a square which has, Lord Nelson standing on top of it, surrounded by 4 lions. The other 3 plinths have 2 great soldiers of British history, James Napier and Henry Havelock, on, and George IV, one of our kings. This 4th plinth has been empty for many years. It was meant to have a statue of William IV, but when the plinths were being built, they actually ran out of money, so it stayed empty for a very long time. I think the time is to find a proper permanent statue to go on that plinth instead.
And you were mentioning that the history of Trafalgar Square. So as a political space, how do you see the artwork contributing to its legacy?
That's a great question. Right now, Trafalgar Square is the responsibility of the Mayor of London. The Mayor of London is allowed to use the square for whatever sort of events he wants to put on. And in many cases, the square has been used not necessarily for the celebration of national events. I mean, sometimes there have been, but overall it has been used for the celebration of specific minority groups as a sort of symbol of multiculturalism. Now, the Mayor obviously is a political figure. He is entitled to do that. That is what a Labour politician obviously would do. But ultimately, I think that this rather flies in the face of something which I think is a square which should be a great unifying monument for London, a unifying place for London, but not just London, but for the entire country. London is the capital city of Britain, of the United Kingdom. It is not a city apart from the country.
Thank you, Fred de Fossard, Director of Parliamentary Affairs at Legatum Institute.
Brilliant. Thank you very much, Rebecca.
And thank you for watching Riks Europe.